When you're ready, Omar.
Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah wa alihi wa ashabihi wa man sara sabilihi ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. So in continuing discussing the book Muqtasar Sahih Bukhari by Zubayr rahimahullah, we're discussing Kitab al-Hayd, and we have reached up to where the author rahimahullah discussed concerning matters regarding an-nawm mal-hayd wa hiya fi thiyadiha. So starting discussing this hadith from today regarding other matters that have been mentioned regarding of the ahkam that relates to al-hayd wa nifas. Anyone?
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال المؤلف رحمه الله. Chapter 13. Sleeping with a menstruating woman, one's wife, while she is wearing her clothes that are worn during menses. Hadith number 217, narrated by Salama radiallahu anha. I was lying with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam under a woolen sheet when I got my menses. See hadith number 207. And added in this quotation that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to kiss me while he was observant Sawm, fasting.
So here's something that I mentioned in hadith, that this particular hadith of Salama anha that was mentioned previously before, and that it has been repeated based upon that, and he captured the main shahid that he wished, which is, as he mentioned, the title an-nawm mal-hayd, that the permissibility, or that is the permissibility for a person to sleep with a menstruate, a woman a woman going through her menstrual cycle. So while she's having her menstrual cycle, it's still allowed for the husband that he can sleep with his wife, and they are not to sleep separate. So I mentioned previous regarding concern of Islam, that are a balance regarding approach of these things compared to what is practiced by some. So you find those that while their wife is going through her menstrual cycle, then they completely avoid them. So complete avoidance of one's wife while she's in her menstrual cycle, that's a practice of some. But as for Islam, it gives an allowance where the man is able to sleep with his wife even in the same bed. So from this hadith of Salama anha, it would mention, he mentioned a hadith, so he mentioned this hadith that was mentioned previous regarding concern she's a state of hayd, and that she and the Prophet Islam, so he mentioned in the other narration, muttaja, that they were actually sleeping together. So this narration mentioned that you cannot give the meaning of the hadith, so this narration is giving the meaning of the hadith, not the exact wording of the hadith. So the exact hadith mentioned that she was actually, as mentioned, that that she was muttaja, that she was actually lying, the Prophet Islam, with some narration mentioned, it is mentioned khamila, and some mention khamisa. So I mentioned regarding khamila, that they mentioned some form of garment, some mentioned a black type of garment. So she was lying with the Prophet Islam, or underneath a garment or something with the Prophet Islam, but both of them were sleeping together. Then he mentioned also that Islam, as some narration mentioned, that also that he kissed her and also that while he was fasting. So from this, of the benefit from the hadith and what is mentioned regarding the bab, the chapter heading, so they is where that Islam, that he slept or was lying with his wife while she was still seeing her monthly cycle. They were together, sleeping or lying together, so they show the permissibility of this. So it shows the permissibility of this act. So it shows regarding the man that he should not avoid his wife while she's experiencing her cycle, and that they are allowed to lie and to sleep in the same bed together. And also, the hadith also shows regarding that by way of extension, that the Prophet ﷺ, that he would kiss of his wife while he was fasting. So this matter will be discussed further regarding the permissibility or lack of permissibility regarding a person kissing of his wife while he's fasting. So that will be discussed in the bab of Siyam more in detail. So overall, that this hadith it mentioned or proves the permissibility of a person lying beside his wife while she's having her menstrual cycle. That's concerning in brief regarding that particular hadith. Then we'll go to the chapter that follows, or the bab that follows.
Yeah, sorry, just to add to that, because I was listening to something before. Is this also something that shows that the Muslims were different from the Yahud? Because I think when the Yahud when the woman used to have a menstrual cycle, they used to literally like ostracize them, basically.
Hey, so that's it. So that's not with others. That's not others that they ostracize or avoid a woman, meaning concerning them. So they're the ones that they still practice it today.
Yeah,
When the woman when they're in their cycle, that they are in a different, they're either in a different house or a different compartment in the house. So they still have that separation between husband and wife, while the wife is having going through her cycle. And that is something upon them, and they still practice today. But that's for Islam, that Islam allows regarding the man, the husband, that he's able to lie with his wife and be in the same house. So if you're in the bed, then that they still interact with each other while she's going through her menstrual cycle, where so everything is done except intimacy. So everything is done except for intimacy.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 14, the participation of the menstruation woman in the two Eid festivals. Hadith number 218, narrated by Atiyah radiallahu anha. I heard Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that the unmarried virgins and the mature girls and the menstruating woman should come out and participate in the good deeds, as well as invocation of faithful believers, but the menstruation woman should keep away from the musalla, praying place of salah. Someone asked Atiyah, surprisingly, do you say that the menstruating woman? She replied, doesn't a menstruating woman attend Al-Arafah, Hajj, and such other deeds?
So this is second, this next hadith is mentioned regarding Shuhud al-Hajid, Idain, Wadawat al-Muslimin, Wayatazalna al-Musalla. So regarding concerning of the matter regarding al-Haid, of those things that is it allowed or not allowed, or what they are allowed, regarding Shuhud al-Eid. So for the menstrual woman, the woman going through her menstrual cycle, that as mentioned in the title heading, that is it permissible for them to attend Salatul Eid, and also that they be a witness, the da'wah of the Muslim, or be a part of the Muslim, and also but also that they avoid the place of the Musalla. So that's concerning what is mentioned is the heading. Then they mentioned the hadith of Atiyah radiallahu anha al-Ansariyah, that regarding this matter. So they mentioned Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, that he mentioned this hadith over 3 separate places in the Sahih. So he mentioned in Kitab, this hadith is mentioned in Kitab al-Salat. Also it is mentioned other places that he's mentioned. So he mentioned this place over 4 different places in the Sahih. In this Bab of Hayd, also in Bab of Salat, Bab Kitab al-Eidain, and also Hajj. So this hadith is connected to different acts. And so the hadith by Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, he mentioned the hadith in several places in his Sahih. So as for this particular discussion regarding concerning Atiyah radiallahu anha, where she heard the Prophet mention Yukhruj al-Awatiq, regarding concern that's not in the Prophet encouraging regarding that also those female, the women, that they should participate in Salatul Eid. So the woman, the female, that they should participate in Salatul Eid. So he mentioned regarding concerning of those cases, so he mentioned of certain women even more so they are encouraged or allowed to participate in Salatul Eid, and what they are allowed to do regarding this. Where I mentioned regarding Salatul Eid is for the Muslim all to go out. So Salatul Eid, that is for the Muslim to go out, and this will include as an encouragement regarding the woman. So the ulama mentioned regarding concern that as for Salatul Eid, participation in Salatul Eid for female. So you have concern, they look at concerning the hukum regarding male, and also the hukum regarding female, that as for the participation or involvement of female regarding Salatul Eid, that I mentioned that what applies to Salatul Eid regarding the woman participating in Salatul Eid, the same thing applies concerning Salatul Jummah. So it's something which is allowed, encouraged, or they are allowed to participate in Salatul Eid, but it's not wajib upon them. So it is allowed, there's an allowance, an encouragement, especially concerning Salatul Eid, for them to participate and to go out, and that means all women of different age group. So they mentioned concerning Awatiq, they mentioned Awatiq concerning those those who are just close to the age, or those young girls that's now just turning maturity. So those young girls who are just that age of turning into maturity, or very close to this, or have just become a mature lady. So they mentioned that Awatiq, they mentioned the what? Khudur, regarding concerning those women that are more, that they mentioned they are more secretive regarding they stay behind in the house, or they stay in the inside more. Then I mentioned that mean and the shahid concerning that those of the women who are on their cycle, those women who are on their menstrual cycle. So he mentioned that also encouragement regarding the young girls, those who are close to the age of maturity, to go out. Also those ones that are more mature, but they are more inside of the house. They're more, and also regarding, third type regarding those ones, we got those on their menstrual cycle, where sometimes people might try not to get them involved because the young girls close to maturity, as a fitna, and also khudur, also being of those who are more mature, and also the ones on their cycle that they're still of a marriage age. So regarding concern these women, that they should also participate in Salatul Eid. So Islam want to encourage regarding, if these ones are encouraged to go, then all other female, all others that are not included should also participate. So it mentioned regarding concern that yashhadna al-khair wa dawat al-mu'minin, that also a reason why they're being encouraged, that it can be a testament, they can witness the khair of the Muslim as gathering together, and also a da'wat al-mu'minin, and also they can be a part of da'wah in the sense that Imam mentioned concerning that, of these da'wah, that they may be amongst the Muslims, those who are righteous and make supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as answered, and all benefit from this. So regarding concern, whatever a da'wah is made, or supplication, then them being present, then also they will be included in that da'wah. So that's concerning of this matter. And also mentioned ya'tazil al-huyda al-musalla. But as for those women that are in there, that are going through, or that are experiencing their menstrual cycle, then for them to avoid the place that they are praying, so the prayer area, they should not be a part of it, or they are not allowed, as they are not allowed to pray, but they should generally attend Salatul Eid, but avoid concerning being involved in the Salah. Then I mentioned qil laha, then someone then said to Salama, qil laha al-qayda, that ask concerning that, please seeking more clarity regarding concerning those ones, or the ones on their menstrual call, alasna, concerning Alisa yashhadna al-Arafah, do they not participate in Arafah? So it shows that regarding concern that they can be involved in acts of ibadah, so they have certain restriction, but regarding that participating in certain things, but they can still be a part of it. So just as concerning Arafah, they will stand for Arafah, but not involved in but they can still also be a part of the supplication of Al-Arafah and other things that are allowed, and doesn't require for them to be a part of it, that doesn't require concerning tahara complete. So that's concerning this hadith. It shows concerning that from this hadith in summary, istihbab, it is something which is mustahab, highly encouraged, hudur al-nisa jami'an al-musalla al-Eid. So it shows that all that the hadith encouraged regarding that all women, young girls, those close to and just have reached the age of maturity, puberty, those who are more older in their prime, and those even on their menstrual cycle, for them all to participate in Salatul Eid. So for all to attend Salatul Eid, but also with this, that those who are on their menstrual cycle, not to be involved in the Salat. Showing that also again that Salat is not to be prayed by the woman in our cycle. Then also it shows regarding concern that the woman in our cycle, that there's things that's allowed, so she's allowed to make dua. So there's certain things that she's not allowed, but also there's things that she's allowed. So of those things that she's allowed regarding ad-dawah, which is supplication, so and participating in certain events regarding concerning the gathering of khair, that they can still participate on these things. So it shows regarding concern to know that so a dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding al-dua, that they are allowed to do so even while they're in their going through their menstrual cycle. So supplication, and also them being witness to these type of thing, that is something which is allowed. So regarding concerning that Salatul Eid, that is of those things that they might hear also the Quran. So those things for them to listen, to hear the Quran, to hear concerning hadith, then there's no harm in this. Other thing that they are not allowed is regarding with the ulama of salat, and with the ulama of some ulama regarding and other things that are certain restriction regarding the woman and her menstrual cycle, but there's things that she's still allowed. There's things that she's allowed, and of that participating and going out and attending Salatul Eid. That's Aywa.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 15, yellowish discharge is not important during the menses. Hadith number 219, narrated by radiallahu anha, we never considered yellowish discharge as a thing of importance during the non-menstruation period. See Fath al-Bari, volume 1, page 442.
That's from the Fath al-Bari, and that's from the person doing the translation. That's from the translator note.
Chapter 16, if a woman gets her menses after Tawaf al-Ifadah. Narrated...
the one you didn't mention before concerning, the one before, was the one before, Anha.
Yellowish discharge.
Concerning yellow and brown?
Not just yellowish, it's in the translation just said yellowish.
Okay.
Yellowish discharge, that's it.
So they mentioned regarding concern of this matter, regarding of those things that are discussed between the ulama, regarding concern that a female, regarding of the ahkam that relates to height, that if she see like a yellow or a brown discharge at the end or at some point in her cycle, how is to be taken? Is it something to indicate? And so, how does it impact on our cycle? So if you see this yellow discharge or a brownish discharge, does this, how does that relates to our cycle? So as they mentioned regarding concern of the ulama, or of those who are all concerned, if it comes, this yellow discharge, it comes at the end of the cycle. So at the end, our normal menstrual cycle have come to an end. She have taken her ghusl about it, and then that, but she still see this discharge, yellowish discharge, then it is not counted. So the end of her cycle, when it have stopped, but then discharge might continue, but by way of the color of being of yellow, then it is not to be counted as a part of her discharge, or part of her menses, not to be considered to be a part of her menses. But if it was to come during the cycle, while she's in her cycle and it's still within the middle, then it is counted as a part of her cycle. So during the cycle, if she was to see this, experience this, and not this yellowish discharge, but she's still going through her menstrual cycle, then it is counted as a part of it. So look at if it is within the cycle, or menstrual cycle, it is counted as a part of the cycle. If it's at the end where things have stopped, but then she sees taking her ghusl and she still see this discharge, then it is counted as nothing. It is not counted as a part of her cycle. So that's concerning what have been mentioned here regarding this matter. So here I mentioned regarding that Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, what is mentioned regarding the call of Jumhur of the ulama. So what is being mentioned regarding that is discharge at the end of the cycle, then it is not counted, as mentioned by Ibn Battal rahimahullah, regarding concerning of those of the ulama who take this view, that is not counted as a part of the cycle, not considered as a part of her menstrual cycle. He mentioned regarding Ruhya and Ali ibn Abi Talib from the Sahaba, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, Manta, the Tabi'in, Wal-Ata ibn Rabah, Hassan, Aish al-Basri, Ibn Sirin, Rabi' al-Thawri, Awzahi, Walayth, Ibn Sa'd, Abi Hanifa, Muhammad, Aish Muhammad huna, Walayth, wa Abi Hanifa, wa Muhammad, that's his companion, Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani, Nam, wa Shafi'i, wa Ahmed, wa Ishaq. So many of the ulama who have this view regarding that if it comes to the end of her cycle, then it is not counted as a part of her cycle. Then, so meaning the end of a cycle, it has stopped regarding her normal, what she identified as her normal menstrual cycle has stopped. But then after, later on, she see this discharge that is still, this discharge, then still continuing, then it is not counted as a part of the cycle. But I mentioned that, but also there's a second view regarding concerning that. So that's concerning that view of the ulama regarding this matter. So that's the view of the ulama regarding this matter. That, but also of the ulama, if it comes at the end of the cycle, it is counted as a part of the cycle. You have of those who hold it comes even at the end of the cycle. That they mentioned that a second view, they mentioned أنهما يعني this color ليس بحيض قبل الحيض. So what she may see before or our cycle start is not counted if you see this type of discharge, a brownish or a yellowish color. That they mentioned وهما يعني these two colors that they mentioned في آخره حيض, that it considered to be a part of the haid. So with some of the ulama, that if she see this discharge before the start of her cycle, it is not counted. But if it is seen at the end of her cycle, then it is counted as a part of her height. So it's counted an extension of her height and counted as such. And I mentioned of those who have those views, I mentioned Abu Yusuf wa Abu Thur. So of those who take this position, Abu Yusuf, who was also on the companion Abu Hanifa, and also Abu Thur. So as concerned that matter regarding that matter, and we mentioned that if it is seen during the cycle, then it is counted as a part of her cycle. It is seen during the cycle, her cycle, it is counted as a part of her cycle. So they mentioned that, so meaning concerning if it is seen as if it is that the rules of Islam concerned that no, it is not counted where she considers herself to be pure and function as such. She considers herself to be pure and she function as such. And also that to remove away concerning things, remove away concerning doubt regarding did my cycle actually end or not. So to remove doubt, if it is seen at the end, then it is not counted. أيوة.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 16, if a woman gets menses after tawaf al-ifada. Hadith number 220, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I told Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam that Safiya bint Huyayya had got her menses. He said, she will probably delay us. Did she perform tawaf al-ifada with you? We replied, yes. On that, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam told her to depart.
So the mentions hadith again regarding concern of those things regarding our height, our menstrual cycle may affect certain ibadah. So of those concerning al-hajj. So regarding concerning of those things that it may have an impact regarding hajj to some extent, where that the woman who is in her menstrual cycle during hajj, that she's not allowed to certain things, but also he mentioned that as here they mentioned concerning that tuhibba the ifada, that she's allowed regarding concerning that she's allowed to do tawaf regarding this. So it is taken at that she's allowed to do sukutan, or she's not allowed to do or tawaf al-wada. It is something which is she's excused in doing it because of her height. So the woman that tawaf al-wada, that the farewell tawaf is to be done for the person who have completed their hajj before they start now to return home, that they'll perform tawaf al-wada. That will be of the final act of concerning of hajj, where the person to complete of their hajj, they'll do tawaf al-wada. So in this case of a female that is going through her menstrual cycle, then as I said, suqut, it is somewhat lifted on her. She's lifted, where it is lifted regarding this act if she had already completed her tawaf al-ifada. So it will be so it is not required for her to do this tawaf al-wada if she have already completed her tawaf al-ifada. That would exempt her from this. So it shows regarding to the lenience of Islam regarding certain matters that Sharia have taken consideration regarding certain things that may occur, and of those things regarding that a female going through her menstrual cycle, then rather than her have to wait just to perform tawaf al-wada and delay her others, then they are giving her certain rukhsa or certain allowance where she's able to leave Al-Mecca without performing tawaf al-wada because of her menstrual cycle. So that's going to show the ease of Islam, and that Islam does give these ease as the circumstance arise. So it shows regarding concern that haid, that also it stopped regarding al-tawaf, that al-haid, that due to al-haid, then the female does not perform tawaf, which is going around the Kaaba in the state of her menstrual cycle. Aywa.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 17, the offering of the funeral prayer of a woman dying during or after delivery and its legal way. Hadith number 221, narrated by Sumra bint Jundub. Sumra bin Jundub radiallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam offered the funeral prayer for the dead body of a woman who died of delivery, i.e. childbirth, and he stood by the middle of her body.
So from this hadith of Samara ibn Jundub anha regarding concern that not matter regarding ahkam al-nifas and also al-hayd, which are similar, which in this case it shows regarding that performing the salatul janaza and the burial for a female that have died from nifas and the likes. So if a female was to pass away while she's doing her menstrual cycle, then also she's still given a right regarding al-ghusl, and also she's shrouded, and also that she's prayed upon and buried. So this doesn't per se delay these things being carried out because of nifas after child bleeding or because of hayd bleeding. So she's still deserving these things as the act of janaza is something which is wajib to be done and to be carried out as soon as possible. So it should not be delayed for, due to reason regarding nifas and the like and al-hayd. It doesn't delay her having this right. So the Prophet Islam showed that it is permissible mention and imratan matat fi batni, that batni, that she died because of childbirth, fasalla alayha, and the Prophet Islam that he prayed over her, faqama wasataha, and he stand at the middle section of the woman. So it shows regarding that the woman who have died regarding concerning of childbirth, that she is deserving salatul janaza and its rights. And the Prophet in this case, he prayed for her. And also that it clarified regarding that the position to be taken by the Imam is that he stand at the center or the middle of the woman. He stand in the middle, so the man at the end, and for the female in the middle. So this hadith, he proved that these things are of the sunnah regarding a person who have died. And also it showed the Prophet that he prayed for a female. So he prayed over the janazah of a female. So it showed the Imam that a male prayed over, so it doesn't require regarding salatul janazah for a female that a female should pray for them. That the male is the one who does so. That is the man who does so. So there's no salat that is known regarding of those, which is salat al-jama, regarding salatul the compulsory 5 salat. Also regarding salatul Eid, istisqa, salat al-juma, salat al-janaza, that any time that is ever done by a female. So it's not known that a female will carry the salat, but only known that it's done by a male. Aywa.
قال المؤلف رحمه الله, chapter 18, hadith number, it has no bab, it just says bab.
Aywa.
I have no title in this one. Chapter 18, hadith number 222, narrated by Maymuna radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. During my menses I never offered salah, but used to sit on the mat beside the house of Allah, beside the mosque of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He used to offer the salah on his sheet, and in prostration some of his clothes used to touch me.
So he mentioned concerning in completing this particular chapter where one that he didn't mention regarding bab, but without mentioning a title. So he mentioned bab without mentioning a title. Then he mentioned the hadith of Maymuna radiallahu anha, Zawj Nabi alayhi salam, regarding concern that she mentioned regarding the Prophet that when you would pray while she's menstruating, that at time that you would touch her. So it showed regarding concern that how to interact with a female who's menstruating, that a person can touch her. So even the Prophet was praying and he would touch her, part of her what in the salat, and his salat would not be considered to be invalid. So touching a lady who's going through her menstrual cycle while the person is praying, this does not make the person's salat invalid. No, none of his wudu nor his salat. So by mere touching a female, that it doesn't pay not a menstrual lady, it doesn't nullify the person's salat, nor is wudu. So that's concerning that, and it shows concern that the Prophet's house was next door the masjid. So his house was next door the masjid. And masjid here, that I mentioned concerning masjid in this sense, that I mentioned concerning that masjid I mentioned here concerning masjid is concerned that masjid concerning place of sujood. Murad huna, they mention murad huna makan al-sujood. So concerned that they mentioned that the masjid here regarding concern that not that she was inside the masjid itself, but masjid meaning concerned the place of sujood. Now, so place of sujood where he was making salat, not per se inside the masjid, is Masjid al-Islam, but in his house, and his wife was beside him, and whenever he went into salat, and also he was praying, كان يصلي على خمرتي, and that he was praying like at something like a small like mat, we might say a small like mat, he was praying on this, so it showed the permissibility of praying on this. I mentioned فإذا سجد أصابها بعض ثوبه, so part of his garment will touch her, so it showed that touching of the female while in salat, and she's going through her menstrual cycle, does not cause her salat to be invalid. Her salat is not said to be invalid, or the person's salat is not said to be invalid. So that's concerning what he ends regarding concerning these matters regarding some of the ahkam that relates to hayd, as mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala. So that inshallah ta'ala will end this session for today, and as we have ended this chapter regarding kitab al-hayd, and inshallah ta'ala that next book or the next chapter we discuss kitab tayammum, so discussing concerning kitab tayammum, the ahkam that relates to at-tayammum bidnillah ta'ala.
It's like a question from Omar. So this person is asking, menstruating women allowed to visit the graves? That's the question the person is asking.
So they mentioned regarding concern, is it allowed for a menstruating woman to visit the gravesite?
No.
That's another condition for a menstrual, for her to enter the gravesite, she has to be on her pure. So yeah, with our next discussion, over the next discussion regarding is a female allowed to visit the graveyard in general. But for those who hold the position that is allowed for a female to visit a graveyard, that they mentioned, you know, that they didn't stipulate that she has to be free from menstrual discharge. It's not a condition.
And my question, if you want to pray, let's say the masjid has two people to pray on, a man and a woman.
Sorry?
A man and a woman. So two people deceased, for example, want to pray on the person. Do you pray on them together, like the man at the front, the woman at the back, or do you pray on them separately?
And they can be prayed together. It's like in the haram and those larger masajid.
No.
So I find that in smaller masajid you may not have those cases as often. But in the larger masajid, like in the haram, or mainly in Medina, Mecca, that in most times that, you know, they have multiple janaza, and at time multiple individual, they'll pray with them all together. So if there's a group of men or men and female, they'll just put the female, they said no, behind, the man in front, and the female more behind.
No, okay, no.
Thanks, that's aywa. So also regarding the end concern the and ahkam of al-hayd, regarding menstrual cycle, that because it says that there's certain restriction, but we stick to the thing that there's restriction without per se exceeding those things. Now, so the person strict to regarding concerning, so there's nothing clearly mentioned that she's not allowed while she's menstruating, then this is taken as it is allowed.
No.
It's taken as allowed until there's something to say otherwise. So for example, said entering at the graveyard, or if you want to make dua, then those things, there's nothing that mentioned that she's not allowed. So it means it can be done. Now, or to sit in gathering with others that maybe involve concerns, you know, like in a house doing like a lesson, and she's there, then those things are allowed. As in the hadith of Omar, they were in the area concerning the musalla. Now, so that's concerned those things to be mindful of. So that inshallah will end and continue next week. Aywa.
So in terms of the hadith that Imam Bukhari mentioned here, would you say that, is he of the opinion that a woman shouldn't remain in the masjid when she's on her menses, i.e. she comes, she's around, for example, for that specific thing, i.e. after that specific event has taken place, she should move on, like not sit down and be in the masjid, Qira'atul Quran and the likes. Is she allowed to stay in the masjid?
As we remember, that after the hadith is mentioned regarding the hadith of Umar concerning musalla, meaning outside the masjid. So musalla regarding Eid, that the Prophet Islam, regarding Salat al-Eid, that normally it is done away from the masjid. So that's why some more encourage that everyone go out as the ulama mentioned regarding that is not after the benefit regarding concerning praying Salatul Eid outside the masjid where everyone can attend, even those women that cannot menstruating. If it's in the masjid, then it becomes they have restrictions regarding who can enter and not enter, right? So Salatul Eid is usually held away from the masjid, so everyone in the community can attend, even those women that are menstruating, can be a part of it.
So would you say it's advisable that women shouldn't go to the masjid while they're
Comes as the next discussion regarding answer that in the masjid or the issue regarding is a female who's menstruating allowed to enter the masjid while she's during her cycle. That's the next matter that is discussed between the ulama. That's the next discussion. Those who say yes give some permissibility, and those who say no. So you have that discussion.